Hey, good morning. It's Cece Summerfield, and I'm here with Nikki Semanchik, and she's going to be talking to us this morning about the importance of having a trust when you own property here in San Diego. This is just the first of hopefully many of videos I'm going to be doing with my professionals that I work with that relate to the real estate industry. So, Nikki, the first question I have for you is, why is it so important to have a trust when you own property?
So there are lots of important reasons why you need a trust. Estate planning in general is really important because, of course, when you pass away, you want to make sure that the people that you want to receive your assets actually do receive your assets when you pass and in the way that you want them to receive them. But why it's important for someone who owns a home or is looking for a home to have a trust is because a trust is the only thing that avoids probate.
Okay, can you
so what
tell
happens
us a little bit more about probate?
Sure, it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Sounds scary. So a trust will avoid probate because probate is a process where when you pass away, you actually have to have your beneficiaries go to the court and petition the court to get your assets.
Oh, that doesn't sound good.
It's really long and it's expensive, so it's something that you typically want to avoid. And having your house titled as joint tenants or community property will avoid probate, but only on the first spouse's death.
Well, let's back up here for a second. How long are you talking about? You're talking about like weeks, months, years on probate?
It can take a year or sometimes.
Oh my God.
If it's a difficult probate, it will take over a year, definitely.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to go through that process.
Yeah, it's a long one.
I hear there's some fees involved with probate. Can you tell me a little bit about what kind of fees we're talking about?
Yeah, so there's actually two types of fees. So one, if you hire an attorney, then the attorney will take a statutory fee. It's actually set by statute.
Okay.
And so for example, on a $1 million estate, and we're talking about the value of your estate, not including any debt. So on a $1 million estate, the probate fees will be $23,000 for the attorney. If you also have an executor or a personal representative, they're also entitled to that same fee. So it can be quite hefty.
That is hefty. And then you're talking about, I'm thinking about real estate fees if you have to sell the property in the process of the probate. Oh my gosh, that just
very expensive.
Really racks it up. So, so yeah, I mean, it sounds to me like it's really important to go ahead and establish that trust, and I'm sure the fees are much less if you do it and be proactive about it rather than going through that probate process.
It really is. It's a fraction of the cost, and I think it also provides people with peace of mind, just knowing that if something happens to you tomorrow, everything's just taken care of, and there's not a lot for your family to have to worry about.
Yeah, I know that I wouldn't want to leave my family with a bunch of problems, you know, after I pass away. And, you know, this is definitely something that brings up to mind to me. My parents are aging, and, you know, it's so hard to broach that subject of, you know, what do you have planned for yourself? So definitely Nikki's such a nice person and probably easy to sit down with and talk about that. So
I'm always happy to talk to people, especially with their parents, and just having the experience and seeing what people have to go through with probate.
Yes.
And just telling your parents, you know, it's not about me trying to get your assets or you have to make
hard decisions. That way, kind of, you know?
It's really just about, like, I've seen how it can really tear families apart when they're fighting over assets or when they're going through the difficult court process because people don't know how to navigate it.
Exactly. Well, they're not professional like you. You know, that's not their job, really. So leave it to the professionals. So my last question for you, are there any other planning tips you could give for people who are buying a home?
Sure. So the biggest one that I tell all of my friends who are looking at buying a house is if you're married and you're buying a house, make sure to title the house as community property with right of survivorship. Okay. So Cece, you probably know how it works. Like, is it a box they check to decide how much they title?
Yeah, it's actually like a statement of information, and they say the word vesting, and everybody's like, what's vesting? Well, it's how you put the property in your name, and it doesn't necessarily have to be your name. It could be your trust or whatever you have set up. So what do you mean by...
So if you don't have a trust, even if you do have a trust, you first want to take title as community property with right of survivorship. Some people will do joint tenancy. And what joint tenancy means, joint tenancy also has that little end phrase with right of survivorship. Basically what right of survivorship means is when someone passes away, the property will automatically go to the next person who owns title with them, and it avoids probate. But it only avoids probate on that first person's death. Got it. So the reason that you want community property with right of survivorship rather than joint tenancy with right of survivorship is because it can save you a ton on taxes. Oh, so, okay. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So after, if it's titled as community property, you get a double step up in basis. So
Okay.
your tax basis is what's determined how much capital gains you'll pay if you sell the taxes. So you take what you paid for the house minus the fair market value, or the fair market value minus what you paid for the house, and you pay capital gains on that. So if you title as community property and your spouse passes away, the house will be valued at the date of death of your spouse.
Oh,
So if you then want to downsize or move somewhere else, you're not going to pay as much,
In
capital gains tax. Yeah.
Got it.
And if you don't do it, if you have it as joint tenancy, what will happen is it's only a half step up in basis. So it's
Oh.
only a step up in basis to your spouse's.
Oh.
So it just gives you that double step up that can be a real benefit.
That is,
tax
who
savings.
likes to pay taxes? I mean, come on,
Exactly.
especially on when you sell a property and you're already paying all those other fees to close the deal.
Yes.
So definitely great tips. Thank you again, Nikki,
Thank
for
you.
joining me
Thanks for
here
having
this
me.
Friday. And hey, just a reminder, this weekend, if you haven't already heard, the time is changing, and set your clocks back on Saturday night. All right, everybody have a great weekend, and we'll be here again next Friday. And I think I have my home inspector scheduled, so he'll be talking to us about smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors and how to make sure they're working okay. All right, thanks.
Thank you.